Welcome to the Aviation Insurance Podcast, the podcast that helps aircraft owners and aviation businesses learn and understand the complex world of aviation insurance and risk management. From the basic principles of aviation insurance to risk management techniques and updates on the aviation insurance market, the Aviation Insurance Podcast is your guide to traverse the world of aviation insurance. Now, here's your host, Tim Bonnell.
Well, welcome back to the Aviation Insurance Podcast, where we've been talking about the aviation commercial general liability policy for the last few episodes. Again, we've been building on that aircraft insurance fundamentals and moving into this next level of coverage, which all aviation businesses should carry, and most do. And again, many of these coverages will be found on broad form endorsements of certain aircraft policies, certainly many turbine operation policies. And so we've been going through that same policy format, DICE, declarations page, insuring agreements, conditions, exclusions, and so on and so forth. So we are in the insuring agreements of the aviation commercial general liability policy, the CGL policy, and now we are moving into coverage C. Coverage C is basically the airport or the premises medical payments. And if you've been tracking with this Aviation Insurance Podcast, you know we talked about medical payments on the aircraft insurance policy side, and it's very similar on the aviation commercial general liability side. It's basically a coverage that pays medical, surgical, hospital, funeral, ambulatory expenses up to the applicable limit. And again, it's regardless of the liability of the insured. It's kind of a quick, no-fault help take care of a few expenses. Limits aren't real high. It's often $1,000, maybe up to $25,000 for this coverage. It is not so much liability. It is just a quick take care of small issues from a loss, a covered loss. So it must be a covered loss within the covered territory. One of the ways that medical payments can be different on an aviation CGL policy as opposed to an aircraft policy is that often the policies will exclude coverage to the named insured. On an aircraft policy, they will often include coverage for a named insured, but on an aviation CGL, it will often exclude it. You have to read the policy there. Again, this is just kind of a helpful coverage if there's a small accident and we don't want to turn in a large a claim for something this small, some cuts, bruises, a cast that might be a couple $1,000s in nature, or it might just be something that helps, take care of a moderate issue in a more helpful way. So very similar to the aircraft medical payments, but there are a little bit of difference in who it actually covers. Again, this coverage C will have its own set of exclusions in many policies, so be sure to read that. But aircraft or premises medical payments for your aviation commercial general liability policy is coverage C. It is there for those small losses. There doesn't have to be fault proven. You don't have to be held liable in order for the coverage to respond. It's just there to take care of those little issues and to be a benefit on your policy. Well, that is all for this week's episode of the Aviation Insurance Podcast. Until next time, we ask and hope that you enjoy clear skies and unlimited visibility.
Thanks for listening to the Aviation Insurance Podcast. If you found this episode of value, please share it with someone who would benefit from this information. Don't forget to subscribe in your podcast player so you don't miss any new episodes and to help our show have more impact. This episode is brought to you by Aeris Insurance Solutions, your flight plan for navigating the turbulence of aviation insurance. For more information, visit aerisinsurance.com. That is www.aerisinsurance.com. Disclaimer. These episodes are for educational purposes only, and due to the changing regulatory and legal nature of the business, some information may change over time. Having a well-educated and experienced aviation insurance broker on your team is an absolute requirement to success in business and for managing your aircraft and aviation business risks.